We are anonymous. We are legion. We are one family. We are one made millions. We are the resistance. We are an army of ideas. We are the voice of the voiceless. We cannot be stopped. We do not forgive. We do not forget. You should have expected us.
Tonight, time and hope are running out for San Jose's Hope Village. The homeless encampment must pack up and leave in 10 days. But people who live there say they have nowhere else to go. Night Beat's Maria Medina with their fears of being on the streets again.
This empty parking lot owned by the Santa Clara Water District is where Hope Village residents hoped they would be moving next. But nearby homeowners said, think again.
Okay, so then you can see how...
James is one of 14 who live here at Hope Village.
We have propane.
A small community of tents with water, showers, bathrooms, a kitchen, even a solar panel to charge their phones.
It is something that you cannot have on the streets.
Hope Village is much different than the cars, RVs, and campsites James used to live in.
This model is extremely low cost, is extremely effective.
But now their fate is uncertain. James is packing up with the rest of the residents, but they have no idea where they'll go. In 10 days, they'll be forced to leave. The county's lease with the city of San Jose is up, and the option of moving to a plot of land in Willow Glen just got shot down after residents told Santa Clara Water District leaders, not in my neighborhood.
I think that the city needs to find a solution for them. Not in our neighborhood.
Lynn Bowers says the homeless go into her neighborhood every day, and she's concerned an encampment could make the issue worse.
I'm sympathetic to the homeless. However, we have the homeless here already. You know, they look for our food in our garbage cans, and it's really a sad situation. But I don't want it to escalate.
I think they have legitimate concerns.
James is sympathetic to Willow Glen residents. Now he hopes someone is sympathetic to them and doesn't close the door on Hope Village for good. And city leaders plan to discuss what happens next for Hope Village next Tuesday, 4 days before the lease ends. On the Night Beat, I'm Maria Medina.
We all hear about the homelessness crisis and the opioid epidemic that plagues San Francisco. So Colton and I wanted to come here to see what's really going on. San Francisco, long known for being one of the most beautiful cities in America. But does it still have that reputation?
The new mayor, London Breed, walked the streets today. Now, at one point, she and her staff walked right by a man who appears to be prepping a needle.
We are in the midst of one of the worst public health crises in recent memory.
San Francisco's tourism is taking a hit.
Used needles.
I even see people shooting up heroin.
Leaving their needles and that they're defecating and urinating everywhere.
Right now, the major issue, people always call it homelessness, but the major issue is drugs.
So you living out here on the streets?
Yeah, I've been out here since '95.
What do you think one of the causes are for people who are out here on the streets? What do you think causes that?
Drug addiction.
I carry Narcan.
That's in case someone overdoses?
Yeah, I carry my bag over there.
The influx of heroin and now meth is beyond the pale.
In 1992, Mayor Frank Jordan made an unprecedented decision to send government funds to a nonprofit organization focused on providing clean needles to drug users to combat disease. This began San Francisco's 27-year-long needle exchange program. But it's not really an exchange program at all. Today, the city hands out about 400,000 syringes each month, with only 246,000 returned, leaving 154,000 still on the streets. Despite the program being decades old, it's recently caused a big problem. In 2015, there were more than 3,000 complaints about discarded needles in the streets, but by the end of 2018, that number had more than doubled with over 7,500 complaints.
We hand them out like they're Skittles to kids. There's no such thing as a needle exchange. You use a needle, you throw the needle down. We don't pick up many of the needles. They're everywhere. You saw them, they're everywhere. You know, people are doing heroin on the BART trains, and so they leave the needles on the BART seats. And so you have to kind of look down and go, am I safe?
I grew up in San Francisco, and certain parks you would go to. I wouldn't bring my kids there. It's just unsafe.
I do think that the opioid crisis has increased the number of people who are out on the street.
Do you see a lot of people just openly using drugs?
Yeah, and it's nasty. Seeing somebody actually shoot up right there, it just makes me feel really bad.
How long have you been out here for?
15 years. Pretty much quit doing the heroin, so that was like last week. So when you're doing drugs, you don't care about nothing else but drugs.
Currently in San Francisco, there are more than 7,000 homeless people. In 2017, the city spent about $305 million to try to solve the problem. But the homelessness situation has recently turned the streets into a sort of public restroom.
Now you see more human feces out here on the ground. It's just a mess, and they're shitting everywhere. It's just a mess out here.
A lot of people just kind of throw their hands up in the air and say, well, what can we do? You know, the whole idea about safe injection sites was thrown around there for a while. Our mayor, London Breed, she was a big proponent of it, and a lot of people are too. I'm completely against it. A far better solution would be, can't we just please open up some substance abuse clinics that also address people's mental health concerns? We need to have a place where people can walk in and go, I'm ready.
Let's say if you want to go to detox right now, and once you're in a system, it's like they have their favorites who they like. If they don't like you, they're not going to deal with you.
All they do is move you around like a herd of human cows. You know, go here, go there, go there, go here. No.
If money solved the problem, this problem would have been solved decades ago. Help them not be homeless anymore. People want to be self-sufficient. They do. I mean, this is a human desire. It feels so good to finally work. Dignity through work. I mean, that's how it works. Do we want to help somebody become more comfortable and more entrenched on the streets, or do we want to help them get into a better way of life?
Fixing the situation in San Francisco is not an easy task, but it's clear the problem isn't getting better and that decades of leftist policies have only enabled the situation. We can no longer allow people to shoot up in broad daylight and live on the streets in third world conditions. It's not compassionate to make it easier for people to harm themselves. It's not progress to allow one of America's great cities to fall apart. When will the people who run San Francisco realize this?
New on 11 at 11, an act of kindness gets one man in trouble with the law.
9 on your side's Kristen Swilley joins us live from Florence. She explains why feeding the homeless led to a ticket and why police say this was justified. Kristen.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Moore's source says he was just trying to help when he stopped to give an elderly homeless man food at this intersection behind me. Police say he was blocking traffic, so they had to ticket him.
Where's the heart? Where is it? Where's compassion at it nowadays?
As Moore's sword pulled onto the Kentucky 18 exit last month, a man with a sign pulled at his heartstrings.
It looked to be about 70. I had gray beard, had a cane, had a sign, hungry.
So he continued down the road to this Raising Cane's, ordered food, and brought it back to that man.
I was coming up, 18 here, no traffic behind me. I looked behind me, I turned my hazards on, pulled over. My wife rolled down the window and called a guy over. She was handing the food and a drink to him.
And that's when his trouble started.
So I look in my mirror and here I see a police officer coming like a block away. Comes up right behind me while my wife was handing the food. Turns the lights on, whoop whoop, you know, type of deal.
Sword says he was stopped around 11 a.m. for about 2 minutes, long enough, that officer told him, to impede traffic and get a ticket. He may have to pay $143, take classes, and complete community service.
I know they probably don't want homeless people around Florence or anywhere, and that's sad, but he still deserves something to eat.
Now, Sword is due back in court on April 5th. We did reach out to Florence police, who tell us it's up to their officers' discretion to decide whether or not someone is given a ticket, and as to the validity and the merit of that citation, that's ultimately going to be up to the courts to decide. Reporting live in Florence this evening, Kristen Swilley, 9 on your.
I was actually worried it was going to be raining like yesterday.
There was a day when Erin Papaleo knew she'd be homeless. It came after multiple surgeries put her out of work, and she couldn't pay her landlords the monthly rent of $900.
Okay, do I want to be a thorn in these people's side that are trying to rent out their room and supplement their income?
So she made a choice. She'd live on the streets, save money, and be back on her feet in a couple of months.
My thinking at the time was very naive, looking back.
That was more than 2 years ago, and the associate's degree holder is still sleeping beneath North Park storefronts, wearing found clothes and eating food from strangers. She knows there are programs that can help her, but but says it's not easy navigating that system, especially by phone.
Because I can tell you one thing, you're probably going to call that first number, maybe spend however long on hold, talk to somebody for a few minutes who's going to give you another number, and probably about 4 or 5 phone calls later, you're going to end up with that first number again.
That's where Jesse Angeles Jr. comes in.
But it is frustrating.
He's a newly hired homeless outreach specialist that focuses on the City Heights and North Park neighborhoods. Papaleo is one of his 23 clients.
Even working in social services, it's frustrating to contact another service provider and get in contact with the right person, and it's a headache.
His role is basically an experiment. A coalition of business groups, nonprofits, and elected officials are funding his position to help the area's homeless find permanent housing. His job is to roam neighborhood hotspots and offer services to those living on the streets.
North Park and City Heights, there's a limited amount of resources that can assist people that are experiencing homelessness.
Angeles wanders from streets to canyons, offering snacks, toiletries, and a range of services. He can help them get an ID, food stamps, health insurance, cash assistance, and hopefully a spot in a housing program. But not everyone wants help or accepts it right away.
It's mainly planting the seed, the idea that the services are out there for them. And when they see me again, they'll ask me, how can I get there?
He's not the first outreach specialist to venture into the communities, but he is the only one who keeps coming back to the same spots. He says that consistency helps him break down barriers with a skeptical population, including Aaron Papaleo.
It wasn't until I think about the second or third time that Aaron actually went up to me and was like, hey, I want help.
Since then, Papaleo says Angeles has quickly helped her complete the steps needed to move closer to a transitional housing program.
I mean, immediately, right off the bat, he, what do you need? Do you have an ID? No? Okay, well, let's get you a voucher. Do you need help getting down to the DMV? I'll go with you.
With the ID, she can now access Medi-Cal to become eligible for a housing and treatment program in Oceanside. At the same time, Angeles is working the phones on her behalf.
I'm actually calling the facility to set up, trying to find a point of contact so we can set up an appointment for a screening time.
He hopes to have her under a roof soon. And when the case file does close on Papaleo, helping her will likely lead to another opening.
Her circle that she's with, I know them as well. And so since I'm here so often, they'll say, hi, what's up, Jesse, how you doing? And I'm not here to enforce anything on them. I'm not here to judge them. I'm mainly here to help them.
Angeles will be on the job for at least 1 year, but the funders may not back his position again unless they see results. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
For decades, men have made up the majority of the homeless population. But recent studies show women now represent more than 40% of homeless Americans.
Now, as Danielle North explains, shelters and centers across the country are doing more to help women get back on their feet.
For decades, women stayed in situations that may have just been unhealthy for them, or they were too afraid to go out on their own. But with this new empowerment comes a rising number of women seeking the help of shelters, trying to forge a better future.
Tracy is now enjoying the simple comforts of home. But it was a long and hard road to get here.
The hardest part was kind of like watching my kids kind of watch me kind of struggle a little bit.
But as it turns out, Tracy is part of a larger shelter story, part of the hidden side of homelessness. According to recent studies and from data from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, women often exhaust every other option they can before they'll stay in a shelter or transitional housing.
Nationally, the total number of individuals, unaccompanied individuals experiencing homelessness is around 500,000. Women represent about 40% of that. The chronic homeless tend to be more men. So if you are a woman who's not part of a family, you're not a veteran, and you're not chronically homeless, there really aren't a lot of resources to help you get out of homelessness.
But agencies across the country have recognized that gap, and the shelter system is trying to evolve to keep up with the changing demographic. Fundraisers like this annual Women Helping Women event have raised more than $1 million to help fund a new women's-only shelter and women's education training. Influential women from the community have been coming together for more than 10 years to raise money and awareness.
They bring 4 friends and we raise funds for, at that time, it was to open up the shelter for women, and now it's evolved into supporting all of the needs of women who are experiencing homelessness. So housing supports, education and employment, financial literacy.
And Tracy credits several staff members at these area shelters with really working hard with her to make sure that she was securing a solid future for her and her growing family.
A new apartment complex could provide homes for the homeless right here in Dallas. The facility would go up around Regal Row and 35. David Goins shows us what's in the works.
It's not much to look at right now, but this 20 acres of overgrown grass could hold a new path to combat Dallas homelessness by retiring an old one.
The Salvation Army is investing in a new plan.
Blake Fetterman is the executive director of the Salvation Army's 33-year-old spot on Harry Hines. That is over capacity with crowded residential bunks and big facility needs like replacing the AC. That's what brought her to downtown Monday, laying out a vision for a new campus here along Stemmons Freeway northwest of downtown. In addition to 30 more homeless shelter beds, the project would create badly needed permanent housing in Dallas for 100 seniors and veterans.
This is exactly what we need.
But as the council's Social Needs Committee knows, it won't be an easy sell.
The reality of it is nobody ever wants it in their backyard.
That included businesses around the proposed campus who feel the impact of so many people living here doesn't fit with an industrial area.
I feel it does affect me in some way since I work so close to this plot of land.
Eric Serta walks by this spot each day after work. It says the more he's learned about it, the more he actually supports it.
I think it's a great idea to help the community out.
We heard the need for perimeter fencing.
Fetterman told the committee Monday the Salvation Army has tried to address property owner concerns. Now it needs the council's help.
And that's a zoning change.
A zoning change that, if passed in April, would be the first new project to combat homelessness outside downtown in over a decade. In Dallas, I'm David Goins.
This could make a big difference. Now, there are the homeless living on the streets, and then there are the homeless living on the edge and managing to stay in their vehicles, and that's who's being targeted. 5 churches in Oakland are basically opening up their parking lots to specifically college students and homeless families who are living out of their vehicles. Now, there are going to be no drugs and alcohol tolerated in these parking lots. A lot of strict rules will be enforced on checking in at night, checking out in the morning, but basically it provides for some of these people a safe place to park and get a night's sleep.
So this is my life. This is how I live temporarily.
36-year-old Amanda has lived out of her car and mobile home for 7 years. A legitimate place to park would be a slice of heaven.
It's hard to get fresh water every single day so people can get clean and bathed every day. And we have to watch out for police all the time. If churches are willing to do that, man, I'm willing to go if they let me.
It's you and I that can say yes in my backyard, yes, on my parking lot.
Williams Chapel Baptist Church will be the first to open up 10 spots to homeless Laney College students living out of their cars. In April, 4 more church parking lots will offer spaces at Westside Missionary, Corinthians, Mount Zion, and Pleasant Grove Baptist churches.
And they're going to be screening them and having them sign codes of conduct. So we hope that this site will be open within the week.
We're sorry that the answer to the many living without homes in our community is, well, you can park here.
But it's better than no place to park. 5 churches are offering up the parking spaces, and the Interfaith Council of Alameda County is organizing this outreach effort. Money from the city and the county will fund a security guard, fresh water, and bathrooms overnight every day for 90-day stints.
We will have a fund that will be applied to this program that will allow us to have minor repairs done to clients' cars. We will help them to expunge their parking tickets.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Anthony Rodriguez is on the verge of having to live out of his 20-year-old Mitsubishi. What message would you like to give people about the plight of people stuck with maybe having to live out of their vehicle?
I just wish there was more than just them 5 churches that would be doing something.
Perhaps more churches will join this effort, perhaps a path out of homelessness and into permanent housing.
These pictures were taken last summer. A nonprofit called Organization of Hope set up mobile hygiene units at a location near the downtown post office to serve the homeless. Nearly 800 people used the units, but the pilot program to try out the idea ended after 4 weeks. Ever since, the vehicles have been parked in storage, unable to operate, the organization's board members say, without the city's approval.
We have services that we want to offer, but we can't operate without the city's permission to operate on their sidewalks and the streets.
The mobile hygiene units are a first for Baltimore. They offer toilet access, showers. A converted bus offers washers and dryers. A third vehicle is for counseling services.
The point is to see what we can do to make them feel human again, make them feel clean and fresh, and find out what is it that we can do to help you get off the street.
A lot of the shelters don't allow people to actually clean. You can come and you can sleep, but you leave as you came.
See all these people down here. Look at them.
Alfred Woods has been on the street for the past 7 months. He said he could not remember when he had his last shower.
They look like they've been in the shower. Look at them. They look like they've been in the shower. No. You got no clean clothes, no nothing. Most they do for you is feed you.
Woods does remember the mobile hygiene units.
I don't know why they took them away. Why did they take them away?
We needed areas where people would say, yes, we want you to come, we want you to set up, we want you to offer this help. And it was difficulty in getting those areas, you know, for ourselves.
The city's director of human services, Terry Hickey, told me he supports the idea of mobile hygiene for the homeless. He supports the model. He blames logistical issues, as he called them, and poor communications with the organization for delays in getting the unit back in operation. He said he now looks forward to hearing from the organization. Reporting live tonight from the newsroom, I'm Jane Miller, WBAL TV 11 News.